thanks, Tom, for being with us today for LIM conference in Monaco. I wanted to invite Bristol because of its strategy for cycling. So could you present the city and its experience about cycling, please?
Great, yeah. So Bristol is in the southwest of England. Kind of historically had high levels of cycling compared to other cities in the UK. And because of that, in 2008, we were awarded the first cycling city. And since then, people visiting Bristol have benefited. We've installed quite a lot of cycle infrastructure. We've worked on projects engaging with local businesses, trying to promote cycling into actual businesses itself. We've also have a project working with schools, trying to encourage more parents to walk and cycle to school. And plus, obviously, we've got a really great scenery in Bristol, so you've got loads of really nice leisure rides and places to explore around the area. So it's not perfect, but it's kind of one of the better areas of the UK to kind of get on your bike and cycle.
So strong commitment from the city, from the mayor of Bristol.
Exactly, yeah. We're lucky. We had recently our own mayor elected with more powers, following the example of London and the success they've had. And we've got George Ferguson, who's an independent, non-party member, but he has a very big commitment towards cycling and a green agenda. So much so that kind of recently Bristol was awarded the European Green Capital for 2015. So there's lots of projects this year happening to try and promote sustainability, solar panels, energy, lots of different things all happening over the city through the next 12 months. And obviously cycling is important and is one of the flagship programs that we're kind of doing more infrastructure, doing lots more marketing, promoting cycling in Bristol.
I saw through the internet that Bristol uses Better by Bike to promote cycling and encourage the population to cycle. Could you tell us more about the different targets you have, such as schools, businesses?
Sure. Yeah, so our purpose with the promoting cycling was firstly we wanted to make cycling inspirational, something that would appeal to people. So we've kind of done lots of with imagery to try and make it aspirational, really promote the freedom that you feel when cycling. And we had, so we kind of made our website more about kind of leisure rides for lots of different abilities. So it kind of encourages people with a wide range of levels of cycling to be able to just hop on their bike, encourage their friend to get cycling. So that's kind of one of the main things that we did. Also as well, we've worked on projects where we offer bike loans to people. So people that want to cycle to work, but don't know if they want to make the investment to actually buy a bike straight away. They have the opportunity to borrow a bike for a month. We've got a big range of different types of bikes, including electric bikes, trying to promote, give people a kind of a taste of cycling. They get cycle training as well, with the aim at the end of the project, the end of the month, that they can actually go on and buy a bike with the salary sacrifice scheme, which is really popular. It's a way that people can kind of pay for their bike over a 12-month period through their employer, and it just comes out of your wage every month. So it's a really great way of kind of paying for quite a high cost item over, bite-sized pieces over a period of a year. But also we have other projects working with schools and kind of encouraging parents and their children to kind of walk, scoot, or cycle to school. We do lots of lead rides and bike breakfasts, where we kind of trying to change the behaviour of parents who kind of habitually kind of get in their car and drive to the school, which is only sort of half a mile away, so it's kind of working with schools and with parents, trying to make it kind of harder, I guess, for parents to kind of be able to park outside gates, maybe kind of encourage them to park further away and then walk or cycle to the last few 100 yards, just to kind of encourage that that kind of change of behaviour.
And how do you do about safety? Because sometimes, parents might be afraid about bringing their children on roads. So how do you work on education? I saw you had some initiatives about women, about children. How do you do about this education?
Sure, safety is really important, and as obviously a concern for a lot of parents. What we do, we offer bikeability cycle training free of charge to all schools in Bristol. So it's part of the curriculum now that schools will be offered the opportunity to kind of get their children trained to cycle on roads. So we've got, I don't know if you know bikeability, but it's there's 3 different levels. So the level 1 is the kind of primary school age, and that's done on in the playground, and they kind of do lots of fun games, learning to kind of master the skills of a bike and balance, and learn about signalling and looking behind themselves. And that's really great. And then the second stage, level 2, takes them out onto quiet roads in their area, and gives them the confidence to kind of cycle on the roads, learning again about looking, and that's a 5-hour session spread over a period of a month. So it kind of really, it's amazing seeing how quickly these children kind of change their cycling skills over that time, and really by the end of it they're kind of got a lot more confidence cycling on the roads. So we do offer that to kind of reassure parents, and they obviously get kind of a badge and a certificate to kind of show that they've done that, which is really popular. Another thing that we do in the summer, we have Bristol's biggest bike rides, which is kind of a big event where we get probably about 8,000 people in a big traffic-free ride kind of around all the scenic locations around Bristol. And that's a very family-focused event where we kind of encourage parents to bring their children along and enjoy a day's ride without cars, just to kind of build their confidence as well.
Do you also promote cycling through cultural environment or heritage in the city of Bristol?
We don't directly, but we do promote other organisations that do that. So there's kind of tours around Bristol that are really popular. Bristol is also famous for its graffiti. We've got kind of famous graffiti artist called Banksy. So we're kind of designing some nice leisure rides kind of around the city that take in all the nice graffiti, and encouraging people that visit the city to kind of borrow a bike and go and explore the bike by the city by bike.
You mentioned earlier the UK Cycle scheme, for businesses. Can you tell us more about this scheme and how people are encouraged to buy a bicycle?
Sure, yeah. So it's called the Salary Sacrifice Scheme, and it's been running, I think, for probably about 7 or 8 years. And it's a government project. And what it does is it kind of allows you to buy a bike tax-free over a period of 1 year. And we work with employers to offer this to their staff. And what it does is it basically allows the employee to sign up for the scheme. They get a credit of, I believe, around about £1,000, and they can then go and choose the bike that they wish. They can buy the equipment like a cycle helmet and locks, and then they basically can get the bike, and then that £1,000 maximum, is usually more like £400 or £500, will actually just come out of their salary at each month. So it's kind of a lot more affordable. And it allows people to kind of buy perhaps a higher value bike than they would do if they was going to pay for it in that 1 month. And that's great because most people who have started to cycle but aren't too sure will often go for a kind of a lower cost bike, and then realize kind of quite soon that actually it's not quite fit for purpose, and wish they'd got kind of a better made bike, really. So this is a really great scheme to allow people to get cycling.
And do people use it a lot, this scheme?
I believe so, yeah. I mean, it's kind of managed within each business, so we don't really know the statistics, but I know that, yeah, it's definitely a very popular scheme. And obviously, it's the way the government can kind of promote cycling and encourage people to change their behaviour. And, other things that we're doing in Bristol, which you may not be aware of, is that we've recently rolled out a 20-mile-an-hour scheme across the whole city. So we're kind of reducing the speeds of traffic, and to make the environment a lot nicer for people to walk and cycle. Another scheme we've done is resident parking scheme. So we've made it a permit parking for people that live in those city centre areas, again to discourage people who don't live in those areas to kind of drive into the city centre. Instead, to leave their car at home and either get public transport, walk or cycle. So the salary sacrifice scheme is a really great way of kind of encouraging people who have been affected by this intervention to consider an alternative mode of transport.
So I see Better by Bike and Bristol initiative is quite innovative, for cycling, and it's due also to its website with all the information available on the website. You're also using social media. You participate in different events at international and in the city. So can you tell us more about that, please?
Yeah, I've done lots of research with the university about barriers to cycling. Lots of people have different reasons why they don't want to cycle. And trying to get somebody, once they actually get on a bike, we often find that people kind of, a lot of their fears about safety and their ability to cycle kind of suddenly disappear. They kind of feel a freedom, and they kind of rekindle their memories from childhood when they used to cycle, and they find it's a lot more pleasant than they had imagined. So we find that the best marketing strategy is kind of word of mouth, getting people to share their experience or encourage their friends to go on a bike ride at the weekend, or do an activity that may not necessarily be about cycling, but does involve cycling. So in the summer, we have a great festival called the Bristol Cycle Festival, and they kind of mix up lots of different events. So there's kind of cycle speed dating. There's a kind of a cycle safari supper, which includes a kind of a 3-course meal spread out with a bike ride in between each course. There's a kind of a ride-in movie theatre, so you have to cycle to a secret location and watch a classic movie. And it's all these kind of events that are kind of, popular, kind of appeal to people that may not necessarily be into cycling, to kind of hook them to go along. And then obviously once they've got on a bike or borrowed a bike from a friend, they've kind of had that experience, and hopefully we can kind of encourage them to carry on cycling through our kind of winter months, which aren't quite so nice, cold.
Yeah. Probably wet as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. You mentioned also some innovations in equipment such as pumps and bike counters. So why do you provide these equipments for the people? To encourage them again for cycling to cycle?
Yeah, we found that this is a really great way of kind of using the infrastructure of the road as a way of promoting cycling and saying that cyclists are welcome in Bristol. So recently installed 10 on-street bike pumps, which are kind of put in nice kind of city centre locations, quite prominent locations, as a way of kind of promoting cycling to people that are walking past or in their car, and offer some kind of intrigue about kind of, what are these kind of pumps doing, how come they're in the middle of the road. But we found that they've been really popular, and kind of really shows that Bristol is a green capital. We kind of value people who cycle, and it's kind of a pat on the back for people that are cycling, and to enjoy the ride even more by having kind of correctly pumped up tires. And the other project that we're recently installing is the bike counters. So this is going to be great. So on a new piece of infrastructure in the city centre, where we've segregated the road. So we've got a nice kind of segregated cycle lane through one of the main streets in Bristol. And we'll be installing a bike counter. So every time you go past, your kind of number will kind of go on a digital screen. So it just kind of gives you a visual representation of how many people are using the path, and you're kind of contributing towards this total. And again, it's a really great way of promoting cycling and getting data for ourselves to kind of really, show that it's been effective, getting numbers of people cycling along that route.
Mm-hmm. So I see your initiatives are very engaging, for Bristol population, but Bristol is also open at international. What about the tourists? How do you do with the tourists to raise their awareness about cycling in Bristol and in the area?
Sure, yeah. So we work really closely with our tourist information boards, and they often promote leisure rides in Bristol. We've got a great one called the Bristol to Bath Railway Path, which was the first first segregated cycle lane in the UK back in the early 80s. And that was done by a charity called Sustrands, who actually were formed in Bristol. So yeah, we promote that leisure ride, and there's bike hire locations at either end of that route. And it's about a 14-mile journey, and it's really nice. You go past kind of a disused railway line. You see there's a cafe that's kind of inside a train. So that's really kind of a quite kind of nice place to stop halfway and have a cup of tea and a bit of cake. Enjoy yourself. But what we've done as well is made these leisure rides available online, so people can kind of download them onto their phone. Can use Google Maps to kind of make sure that they don't get lost and know which way they're going. And again, we've kind of used the digital mapping as a way of people kind of sharing the ride with their friends on social media. So kind of encourage more of their friends to kind of do this ride, and use that as an opportunity to kind of promote it for us on our behalf.
So you mean that digital strategy is very important for cycling, to inform about cycling?
Exactly, because I think a lot of people are worried about getting lost, or not knowing which route they should be following. So by using technology, or people, allows people to kind of know the route that they're going, have the confidence to know that they're going the right way. And also, it avoids people having to go to a shop to get the paper maps or the kind of the routes. It just allows them, at the weekend, what should we do? Let's go for a bike ride. Log on, download the ride onto their phone, and then they've got that with them to give them the confidence to go out and do the ride.
Mm-hmm. So if you had one message, to send to international city, to other cities, to other cycling engineers, what would you say?
I think, as I said earlier, the imagery is really important, and try to tap into the aspirational imagery of cycling. You have lots of photos of normal people. We early on had a strategy where we tried to avoid too many photos of helmets or high-vis jackets or the kind of sports cycling, because we didn't want to make cycling look like it was an extreme sport that's kind of only achievable if you're kind of an adrenaline junkie. Instead, we wanted to just use lots of case studies of normal people, find out good reasons as to why people wanted to cycle or why they like cycling, and use their reasons for cycling as motivation for other people, as opposed to government to cycle. It's kind of real people saying, I like cycling because it's quicker, it's cheaper, it's more convenient. Yeah, so I would say, yeah, imagery is really important and kind of focus on the aspirational element.
Would you say cycling becomes a lifestyle?
Yeah, it becomes a lifestyle, yeah, for people, but kind of normalizing it and just don't have to become a cyclist. It doesn't have to define you. It just can be something that you just, I just happen to cycle to work, but I'm not necessarily, a cyclist. It's just the mode of transport that gets me to where I want to go quicker and cheaper and more conveniently.
And what are your main goals, for the future for the cycling of Bristol?
We have recently got more grants to spend. We've got the Cycle Ambition Fund. We're going to be installing a new pedestrian and cycle bridge across the harbour side. Recently published a 10-year strategy, sort of showing where we want to be in the next 10 years, which is much more of a kind of a network of cycle lanes across the city. And I think, yeah, kind of taking on some of the experience of places like Copenhagen, which had a kind of a long-term strategy, which took it out of politics and just said, like, this is where we want to be in 10 years' time. And then slowly but surely kind of improving the infrastructure to encourage more people to use those networks.
Okay.